Well, g'day folks, it's Ant-Manton here from White Hobart and welcome to today's episode of the Ant-idote. I'm going to do this thing every Friday. It's a bit of a replacement for the Ants rant, so I'm trying to make it slightly less ranty and a little bit more antidote-y. What I'm trying to do is every week I'm going to try and present a bit of a problem to you and hopefully come up with a bit of a solution. That's the idea, although I have to say this week's subject, underquoting, is one I have talked about before. That's right, it's my ants in my pants subject of underquoting. I want to read you a couple of things first just to get you started. The definition of underquoting, really important. Underquoting can occur when a property is advertised at a price that is less than the estimated selling price, the seller's asking price, or at a price already rejected by the seller. Now, the reason I'm bringing this to everyone's attention is because it's been brought to my attention so often over the last few weeks and months. We are in a pretty strong market, and unfortunately that can mean good and bad for both seller and buyer, but this underquoting issue is, I believe, the scourge of the industry. Now, there's a few things I wanted to talk to you about. In most states, this is actually illegal. People and agents are being fined tens and sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars for being against the law in this area. Unfortunately, in Tassie, there's no law against it. I believe it's unethical. There's a couple of big issues I want to raise to your attention. First one is exactly what it means in terms of the buyers and the sellers. Now, right up front, I'll tell you, obviously as the agent, my number one priority is to a vendor. My job is to get them the best possible price I can in the market. That's obvious. However, you shouldn't be doing that at the expense of misleading and deceiving buyers, and that's what's going on right now. I've been encouraged by people today to name and shame. I won't do that, I promise. Already my lawyers are probably having a heart attack as we speak. I'll probably get hauled over the coals for bringing the industry into disrepute. But you know what? I think our industry is doing a pretty bloody good job of doing that themselves, and that's why I'm talking about it. One of the things that's happening, and let me give you a real life example. I won't name the address, I won't name the agent, but we all know that there are agents and agencies out there that are doing this. You all know who they are, so I don't need to name them. What's happening is you'll get properties that are advertised at, say, in a range at $480,000 to $520,000. Then suddenly 2 weeks later they're selling for $640,000, $650,000. These are real life examples that are happening as we speak. Now, it'd be nice to say that that was all because the market was booming and the agent just had no idea how much competition that there might be. We know that's not actually the case. What's happening is that vendors are being told to advertise their property low, to encourage multiple offers. Buyers are coming in being very, very upset and misled as they put in their offer around the 520, the 510 mark, thinking they're in with a chance, and they're missing out by $100,000 plus. That's immoral, that's unethical. There's no question about it. Now, the problem with that is that then what the agents are doing, they're getting on their social media sites and they're talking about how wonderful a job they've done as an agent. We all knew that property was always going to sell for in the 600s. This is the issue that I've got. Now, if that was the only issue, even that would be bad enough. But there's a secondary issue that I don't think the industry or the public would be aware about. And that is that I think a lot of agents are using this method to financially line their own pockets. Now, again, let me give you a good example, and I've witnessed this firsthand, so please don't tell me I don't know what I'm talking about. I've witnessed it firsthand. What they're also doing when they sign their agency agreements is they're going to their vendors and they're saying, okay, I think your property is going to get between 480 and 520, so here's what we'll do. I'll give you a nice low flat fee. Let's say we'll charge you 10 or 11 grand commission up to say $500,000. Now, if we're lucky enough, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, to get over $500,000, why don't we share in those profits? Because you're not expecting much more than that anyway, are you? No, you're not, are you? So what they're doing is then they're saying, we'll split the difference, say 80-20. So if I get $520,000, amazingly enough, I'll get 20% of that extra $20,000 and you'll get 80%. That sounds reasonable, doesn't it? But it's not. Because when they get $640,000, the poor vendor ends up with a commission rate of about 6.5%. Now, the standard Real Estate Institute commission scale is about 3.5% to 4%. And the industry standard is about 3%, given that it's a deregulated industry. So what these agents are doing is they're actually using this underquoting to financially line their own pockets. That I have a real issue with. Now, what's the solution to this? Well, the solution really is our industry bodies actually getting the gumption to tackle this head on. Interestingly enough, back in February, our industry was warned by our own industry body about this practice. So the 20th of February, we received an email saying that underquoting was something we needed to be very, very careful of because it was being cracked down on in other legislatures. Victoria, New South Wales particularly. Obviously big auction markets, but no different down here. So we were warned about this issue, and yet I'm not aware of a single agent even being reprimanded for the issue over the last 6 months. That is appalling. Now, it appears that I am a one-man crusader against this issue, but I'm prepared to be that because you've got to have a bit of integrity in this business, I reckon too. So it's something that myself and this agency will never engage in. There's a fundamental obligation as a professional agent to know your market, to understand your market, and to advise your vendors accordingly. We should be going to our vendors giving them a realistic price. We should be going to our buyers giving them some hope of understanding, are they wasting their time coming to multiple open homes, never being able to buy a property that's currently being advertised through a particular agent or agency. That's my issue. So folks, two things: underquoting, out the door; financial gain at the expense of vendors should be out the door. I think I've got the ants out of my pants for this week. However, until next week, I'm signing off. Ant.manton, property just got serious.